Well, let's see. So, welcome aboard, everybody. I can see we have 6 people watching us. So, as I said before, today we're going to work with the differences between the present perfect and the simple past. Okay? Hello, Mayari. Hello, Isaki. Hello, Jana, Leticia. So today we're going to work with the differences between the present perfect and the simple past, okay? So this is a more advanced topic, but it's okay if you are intermediate, if you are pre-intermediate, you have already studied that, maybe not so intensively, but you have. So I can see that many people are entering in our live, and this is very good, okay? So we're going to work together tonight, and you can go to our chat, and then you can send your questions there, and I will be glad to help you out, okay? So let's start, beautiful students. We're going to work here. Let me just share my screen with you. There you go. This one here. Okay. And can you see the presentation? Can you see the presentation? Yes? I think so. I think you can. Yes? I guess you can. Great. Okay. Yes. I need your feedback, guys, because if you don't say if you don't answer my questions, then I don't know if everything is working. So let's start, beautiful students. We're going to start here with our presentation about the present perfect and the simple past, okay? So basically the differences we have between one verb tense and the other, okay? So we're going to start checking exactly what we're going to do today. So we're going to work with reviewing the simple past, which is really important for us. Then reviewing the present perfect. Then we're going to restate the differences between one verb tense and the other. And after that, we're going to practice a little bit. I also prepared some questions for you after each one of the verb tenses because I think it's really important for you to have some, let's say, practice in between the verb tenses in order not to let only the exercises at the end, because I think after we see some characteristics of each one of the verb tenses, it's necessary to practice a little bit so you will remember. Yeah? Okay. The first thing we're going to see is the function, because grammar is not it's not meant to be just grammar, right? Grammar always has a function behind it. Why do we use the verb tenses? So to start with, we have the simple past. The main function for the simple past is when we use it to talk about completed actions in the past. Okay? So when we are talking about completed actions in the past, we tend to use the simple past. Okay? What is exactly a completed action? Is something that happened in the past and it's over. Okay? We are 100% sure that that action is over. It has already finished. Okay? So we have some examples here. The first one, I chatted with my friends yesterday. So you guys in your homes, I would like you to repeat after me, okay? Repeat. It's always important to vocalize, the sentences because you are going to practice. Some people need more their ears to learn better, so it's important to practice the pronunciation as well. So let's pronounce. Let's repeat after me. The first example: I chatted with my friends yesterday. I chatted with my friends yesterday. Okay, so this is the first example. The second example we have: Jackson bought a new smartphone last week. Repeat: Jackson bought a new smartphone last week. Okay, we have two examples already. The third example is: Bruno didn't eat all the chocolate. Bruno didn't eat all the chocolate. And then we have a fourth example. Did Lucas study here when he was a child? Did Lucas study here when he was a child? Okay, so that is the beginning for us. Okay, we have some examples here so that you can have an idea of what exactly we are talking about. So let's move on. Guys, if you have any questions along this live, I would like you to ask me, okay? So you write your question, you send it there in the chat area. If you are not 100% sure about how you can write your question in English, you can write your question in Portuguese, okay? It's not a problem. The most important thing today is that you finish the live with no doubts. Okay, this is really important. So let's move on. Now we have some characteristics for the simple past. Okay, I divided here for you in three categories. The first category is affirmative sentences, then you have negative sentences, and then you have questions. Okay, so so far we are talking about the simple past. Okay, so we can divide the simple past affirmative sentences in two categories, okay? The first category is regular verbs, okay? And for that, the rule is very simple. Most regular verbs, we only need to add ed, okay? Ed, to make the verb, to put the verb in the past, okay? And then we have the second category, which is irregular verbs, okay? And in this case, they are a little bit trickier, yes? Because they do not follow any rules. And then we, as students of English, we get a little crazy, right? Because we're like, oh my God, but I don't remember the past of this irregular verb. Yes, I know how it feels. I have already been in your shoes, and I know that sometimes it's kind of difficult to remember what the past of a certain verb is. But I have good news for you, because as long as we keep practicing and we continue studying English, it becomes easier and easier after some time to memorize, especially the most common verbs, okay? So we have some examples here. The first example is for a regular verb, and the verb is play. So as you can see here, we are following the rule that I said before. We just added ed. So we have here, I played video game last night, okay? This is a regular verb, the verb is play. I played video game last night, regular verb, okay? The second one is irregular. We have here, Janaína ate all the chocolate. No, Janaína, you ate all my chocolate. This is really bad. Now, what can I eat if you ate all my chocolate? So we have here, a regular example with the verb play and an irregular example with the verb eat. But as you can see, it's in the past and it's irregular, so it changed a lot. Okay? You guys that study at Talkers, if you are studying with the Speak Out book, you have a list of irregular verbs on page 127, okay? All Speak Out books, they have the list of irregular verbs on the same page, on page 127, okay? So you can go there and check the list of irregular verbs. Of course, we don't have all the irregular verbs there, but we have at least the most common ones, okay? Well, then we can talk about the negative sentences. And here is when things start to become a little easier. And that's because both regular and irregular verbs, they follow the same rules. So there's no difference between irregular or regular verbs for negative statements. So let's see. We, in order to have a negative sentence, we can use didn't, yes, which is basically the contraction between did and not. And we use it to indicate the negative form, okay? And something interesting here is that the verbs, they do not shift to past, okay? So we already have an indicator of past, which is didn't. So there is no need for us to also change the verb to past, okay? So some examples here for you to see. I used basically the same sentences as before. I just changed them into the negative form. So we have here, I didn't play. So here we had I played. Now we have I didn't play. So the verb does not change. It does not go to the past form. I didn't play video game last night. Okay? And then the second one, which was the verb eat. Janaína didn't eat all the chocolate. Okay? So we have here, as an example, ate was the past affirmative, and didn't eat is the past negative. Okay? So far, so good, guys? Questions or doubts? Remember, if you have any questions, if you have something that you want to ask, please send me a question there in the chat area, okay? Very well, let's move on. Then we also have the question form, yes? The question form is also easier than the affirmative sentences because of the same reason that it is easier for negative sentences. Both regular and irregular verbs, they follow the same rules, okay? So basically we have here we have to use did as an auxiliary, yes, to ask our questions. So did goes in the beginning of the question or after a question word. Yes, I think you remember the question words like where, when, who, how. Yes, these are question words. So basically, we have a certain order that we can respect here. So if you have question words, the question words, they come first. But if you don't, then we can start the question with did. The difference is that if you ask a question with a question word, the answer needs to be more complete. While when you ask a question that starts with did, or basically any question that starts with an auxiliary, you have a yes or no question, right? For example, if I say, did you do your homework? The person can answer yes or no. But if I say, how did you get here? The person cannot say yes or no. The person has to say, oh, I came here by car. I came here by bus. Yes? Very well. So let's see the examples we have. Did you play video game last night? Again, we have did, which indicates past, and then the verb stays in the base form. We do not need to change it. did you play video game last night? And then we have, did Janaína eat all the chocolate? Okay, so we have an example here. Did Janaína eat? Again, we don't have to change the verb. And then we have an example with a question word. What? What did she eat for dinner? So as you can see, what is like more important in the sequence, let's say. And then we put what or when, where, how, who in the beginning of the sentences, okay? Of the questions. And then you continue in the normal order. Did she eat? Okay? Well, so far so good. Any questions or doubts? No? Okay, so remember, if you have any questions, please ask. Continuing. Now we have here spelling rules for regular affirmative sentences. So, as I said before, I showed you here, we have two categories, regular verbs and irregular verbs. So the irregular verbs, they do not follow any rules, but the regular verbs, when we write them in the affirmative sentences, we have to follow certain rules. The general rule is that we have to add ed. So that happens to most verbs. But in some cases, we are going to need to pay attention to the writing or to the spelling of the verbs because they will change, okay? Let's see. Verbs ending in E. So if your verb ends with the letter E, with the vowel E, you don't need to add another E. You just have to add D. So as you have an example here, as an example, like becomes liked. Okay, so like, liked. And then you have save, that becomes saved. They ended, they finished in E. So we just need to add the letter D. Okay? Great. Then, verbs that end in consonant Y. So if your verb ends in consonant Y, you are going to drop. When we say drop, we say cancel, okay? So we are going to remove the letter Y from your verb, and you are going to add IED, okay? Let's see the examples. Cry, cried. You see that we removed the letter Y and we added IED. Study, studied. We removed the letter Y and we added IED. Right? And then the third rule is with something very famous when we are learning English, which is called CVC. So basically CVC stands for consonant, vowel, consonant. Right? Oh, so basically, if your verbs, they end in CVC, consonant, vowel, consonant, what we have to do is we are going to double the last letter. So we're going to write that last letter of the verb twice. And after that, we are going to add ed. For example, stop. So you can see we can check together, yes? We have T, which is a consonant, O, which is a vowel, and P, which is also a consonant, okay? So we have CVC. Then we write stopped, and then we doubled the last letter. The last letter of the base form was P, so we have two P's here, right? We have double P, and then we write stopped, double P, and then ED. The same happens with the verb plan. You have consonant with the letter L, A, which is a vowel, and then N, which is a consonant again. And then we double the last letter. In this case, the last letter of the base form is N. So we're going to double N here, P-L-A-N-N, and then we add ED, right? So far, so good? I think this is it's not new for you, I guess, because this is something that you have already seen in elementary, you have seen it in starter B, elementary, you have seen it in pre-intermediate, and then you see it again in intermediate. It's so important, especially the present perfect. You'll notice that you have already worked with it. So it's so important that we revisit it many times throughout our, let's say, our journey through the English language. Okay? Well, let's check now some activities. Yes, so I prepared a few questions for you. And you have 15 seconds, more or less, to answer. So you are going to read some sentences. They are in the simple past, so we are not mixing the verb tenses yet. They are in the simple past. You are going to read the sentence, and then you have like 15 seconds to answer these questions, okay? Are you ready? You are going to write the answers for me in the chat, okay? So I will wait for most people to send me the answers, and once most people send me the answers for the questions, I will announce the correct one, okay? So let's start. We have here, first one, my brother, blank, the verb is give, it's between brackets, me a new t-shirt last weekend. My brother, blank, me a new t-shirt last weekend. Let's go. You have 15 seconds. Let's see. I'm going to count here. I'm counting your 15 seconds. Let's go. Okay, time's up. I want to see some answers, please. Let's see. Nobody sent me any answers. Let's see. Jackson, Paola, Isaki, Leticia, Fran, if you want to try. Let's go. Okay, Paola sent me an answer. Jackson also sent me an answer. Yes, you can do like Jackson did if you feel like it's just too long to write all the sentence. You can just send me the specific word. Okay. Isaki also answered me. Great. Let's see. Let's check the first question. So you had some time. Let's see. And the correct answer is gave. Correct. My brother gave me a new t-shirt last weekend. Okay. So I would like you to repeat this in your house. Okay. In your home. My brother gave me a new t-shirt last weekend. Okay. Great. Ready for the next question? Let's go. So you have to complete the same way. You have the verb in brackets and you have to give me the answer for that sentence. Okay, let's go. The teacher, blank, reading the text. The teacher, blank, reading the text. The verb is stop. Let's go. You have 15 seconds, and I'm counting. Let's go. 2, 1. Okay, time's up. Let's see what you have. Perfect. Very well, guys. Congratulations. Yes. So the correct answer is stopped. With double P. So we have to pay attention here because we have one specific verb which finishes in CVC. So you have to double the letter P. Yes, stopped. Great. Let's go to the next one. There you go. So you see, this is a question, so you have to be careful, okay? Blank, the students blank notes last class. The main verb is take, but as you can see, you have two spaces because this is a question. So you need a special word here in the beginning. Let's go. I'm counting your 15 seconds. Okay. 5 seconds. Time's up. Let's see what we have. Let's see what you guys wrote. Okay. Right. Nice. Very well. Let's check. Yes. So the question is, did the students take notes last class? Did the students take notes last class? So we do not write took because it's a question. And what indicates past in this case is the auxiliary did. Okay? So did the students, this is already past, so we don't need to write the verb also in the past. Okay? So did the students take notes last class? Okay, great. I saw that someone said does, but does is for simple present, yes, and we are talking about past. So past is, for past, we use did, okay? Let's go. Next one. My brother blank me in the morning, so I blank the bus. You have two verbs here. And as you can see, the first one, you have not. Not indicates negative, so you have to be careful as well. Let's go. I'm counting your 15 seconds. 10 seconds. 5 seconds. Right, okay, we're done. So let's see what you guys wrote for me. Okay, let's see. Yes, Paola, the automatic correctors, the spelling correctors of our computers and cell phones, they do that with us sometimes, but it's normal. Okay. We already have some answers here. All right. Great. So let's check together. And the answer, my brother didn't call. Yes. I forgot to write call here, but it was necessary because of the verb, right? So my brother didn't call me in the morning, so I missed the bus. Very well. Again, we don't say called with ed because of didn't, yes? The word didn't indicates past, so there's no need for us to double write it, yes? It's like redundant if we write didn't and then we put the ed. There's no need for that. Okay, so far we worked with the simple past. Before we move on to the present perfect, is there any question about the simple past? Do you want to know something? Do you have any questions about it? Say yes or no in the chat. because it's important for me to have this feedback. Yes, no. No. I have a query. Okay, you have a question, Izaki, so please write your question for me. Let's see what our classmate wants to know. Okay. So while you write your question, Izaki, I'm going to start showing the next slide, but keep writing your question, then I will come back and I will explain whatever question you have. Okay, so keep on writing it. Well, so now we're going to talk about the present perfect, which is funny because the name is present perfect, but it's actually a past tense, yes? But you'll see why it is called present perfect. So the first thing we need to know is the function. Why do we need to know the present perfect? Why is it necessary? So it is commonly used to talk about actions that started in the past and might still be happening. So they started somewhere in a certain moment in the past, but they might be still happening. So maybe they are not finished. We can use the present perfect to talk about experiences, and we can also use it to talk about actions that happened in an undetermined past, or in other words, they happened in the past, but we don't know when. We don't know exactly when, okay? Very good. Very good question, Izaki. How do we know the sound of the D in the past? Yes? Basically, guys, we have three sounds. We have three sounds for the ED in the simple past when we are talking about regular verbs, okay? The easiest one, it's probably for us, it's probably the sound of id. Yes, so when we have verbs like, I'm going to write here in our chat, when we have verbs that finish in either D or T, for example, chat, yes, we can use the sound of id. It sounds something like this. I'm going to write something like this, id. So we're going to say chatted, yes? Chatted. I chatted with my friends yesterday. I chatted with my friends yesterday. It's like id, chatted, right? Because it finishes in T. If your verb also ends in D, so we can have something similar to that. Let me think of a verb that finishes in D. Let me think of a verb that finishes in D. Let's ask Google here. Verbs. Sorry. I can't remember any. So, verbs ending in D. Let's see. Verbs ending in D. Let me see here. Add. The verb add, like when we add someone to our social media, like add. The same thing, we have a verb that finishes in D, so we're going to pronounce the ED for added as id. So added, id, added, okay? This is, I think it's the easiest one, because we tend to already pronounce the verbs that way. Any verb that we learn in the simple past, we tend to pronounce this way. So I think it's the easiest form. But now it comes the, let's say, the trickiest part. Every verb that finishes with a voiceless sound, so voiceless, that is not produced in your larynx, so we are going to say that that is a voiceless sound, like work, for example. If you put your hand here on your throat and you say work, this sound is not produced in your larynx. This sound does not vibrate your vocal cords, so it's called voiceless or unvoiced. In this case, the ed becomes a T. It sounds like T. So you say something like worked, like this. I'm going to write for you. So the ed becomes a T. Worked, worked. Repeat in your home. Worked. Okay? So this ed, we are not going to say worked, worked. This is not right. Worked. No, it's worked, worked. And every single verb that has this voiceless sound, that finishes with this voiceless sound, we are going to use the same strategy, okay? Let's think of something else. Wash. The verb wash. It's the same idea. If you say wash, this sh sound, if you put your hand here, you will notice that there's no vibration. So you just say wash. So this washed will sound like a T. Washed, washed, washed. Okay? That's how you pronounce it. And then we have verbs that have the voiced sound. Yes, let's think of love. This is a different thing. Now, the end of love, it is produced in your larynx, so it is what we call voiced. Yes, it's a voiced sound. It is produced in your vocal cords. So in this case, the ed sounds like a D. Okay, it sounds like a D. You are not going to say loved, loved, loved. No, that's not right. You are going to say loved, loved, loved. Yes, loved. Okay? So that's basically the three ways you can pronounce the ed sound. If the verb ends with T or D, you are going to extend it. Yes? Like study, studied, or you're going to say something like let me think. Write. No, write is irregular. Forget about it. As I used the example chat, so you can say chatted, yes, because it's impossible to pronounce that like very short. If your verb ends with a voiceless sound, so if the sound of the verb is not pronounced in your larynx, you are going to pronounce the ed as a T, like I said there. Work, worked, wash, washed, like, liked. But if you have a verb that ends with a voiced sound, so the sound is produced in your vocal cords, then you are going to pronounce the ed as a D. So love, loved. Let's think of something else. Play, played. Okay? So we have to remember this. 3 little rules for you guys. Okay? I think I answered your question, Izaki, but if not, let me know. Great. So let's move on now. Let's talk about the present perfect, okay? And this is one of the verb tenses that causes the most doubts in every English student, because we don't really have a verb tense in Portuguese that we can relate to the present perfect. So we kind of have to learn a new way of thinking. So the present perfect, as I was saying before, is used commonly to talk about actions that started in the past and might still be happening, experiences and actions that happened in an undetermined past, or just simply experiences. Let's see some examples. The first one, repeat in your home, okay? Repeat in your home. I have worked here for 5 years. I have worked here for 5 years. This example is of a sentence in which we don't know exactly if the person is still working or not. The person is just stating that In some moment, this person worked in a certain place for 5 years, okay? But we don't really know if the person is still working or not. The second one, repeat with me. Paola has never visited Disneyland. Paola has never visited Disneyland. The same thing. Now we are talking about experience. It's an experience that Paola, in this case, she hasn't had. But it's an experience. Paola has never visited Disneyland. Now we have a question. And in this question, as we can see, we start the question with the auxiliary, which is has in this case. So, has she ever watched Titanic? Once more, we are talking about an experience. So, has she ever watched Titanic? And then the last one. I have watched that movie 3 times. I have watched that movie 3 times. So, again, we are talking about experiences. It's something that we have already done, but we are still alive, so we can do it many more times. We have watched so far only 3 times, but tomorrow we can watch again, and then we can watch again and again. So this counting never stops because we are still alive. Okay? So the characteristics of this verb tense. For affirmative sentences, we have and has plus past participle. That's the basic structure. Okay? We are going to use have for the persons I, you, we, and they, and we are going to use has for he, she, and it. Okay? So for regular verbs, the rules are the same as the simple past. You have to take care of the ending of the verbs. You have to see if you have to double letter, if you have to omit the y. Yes? The same rules as the regular verbs for the simple past, if it's a regular verb. If it's an irregular verb, then you have to check the third column of an irregular verbs list. Okay? Why? Because as they are irregular, sometimes the past participle form is different from the simple past form. Sometimes it's the same, but some other times they are different. Let's get a verb here. For example, the verb take. Take is the base form, and then we have took for the simple past, and the past participle is taken. So we have to get, we have to get this third column here, okay? Let's see the examples we have. The students have done all the homework, yes? This is not, this was supposed to be plural, okay? There is this apostrophe here, but forget about it. It's plural, okay? It's supposed to be plural. The students have done all the homework. So we have here have as our auxiliary, and then we have done as our past participle. The verb is do, but if you check on the third column of your irregular verbs, if you study with Speak Out, it's page 127, you will see that the past participle of do is done. Okay? The negative sentences. Now we just have to change the auxiliary. We are going to have haven't and hasn't and then past participle. This is one of the main differences between the present perfect and the simple past. Because in the simple past, negatives and questions, we do not need to change the verb. But for present perfect, we always have to change the verb. Okay, the main verb. So we always have to write it in the past participle. It doesn't matter if it's affirmative, negative, or a question. Okay? So again, haven't we use with I, you, we, and they, and hasn't we use with he, she, and it. An example for you. They haven't been to London. This is the negative, right? They haven't been to London. Notes. We can use contractions. So we can use for I have, repeat with me in your home. I have, I've. You have, you've. We have, we've. They have, they've. he has his, she has she's, it has its, right? So do not mistaken this with the contraction for the verb to be, okay? This is not he is, this is he has, but it's contracted. And then we have the questions. As usually happens with questions with auxiliaries, now we are going to use have and has right in the beginning of the question, before the subject, like have or has plus subject and then the past participle. Have and has go to the beginning. For example, have you seen the news? So you can see that have is in the beginning. Right after have we have the person, and then we have the verb with the participle. Have you seen the news? And has Lucy arrived yet? The same idea. We have the auxiliary here. We have Lucy, which is the person, and then we have the verb with the participle form. Okay? So far, so good. Any questions? If you have any questions, please let me know. Well, moving on. Now let's practice a little bit. The same idea, the same as we did before. We had some sentences. You are going to complete the sentences. You have some time, like 15 seconds. And after that, you are going to check whether your answer is right or not, okay? First one. He blank my doctor for many years. Be careful. If you want to check in your books, page 127, you can check if the verb is regular or irregular. Let's go. I'm counting your 15 seconds. 10 seconds. 5. Time's up. Let's see. I want to see your answers, guys. Send it to me, please. All right. Okay. Let's check the answers. Has been. He has been my doctor for many years. He has been my doctor for many years. Okay, so we have the verb be. You go there to your list and you can see that the past participle of the verb be is been. Okay, he has been my doctor for many years. Okay, next one. Blank, Peter and May, blank, bring my book yet. So remember, this is a question. That's why we have two blanks and they are separated. So the first blank is in the beginning of the sentence and then one after for the people. I'm counting. 10 seconds. 5. Okay, let's see your answers. Let's check your answers. Let's go. You can see that some people are already answering. Right. Let's see. Have Peter and May brought my book yet? Yes. Very well. We have. It's important to see this here because have corresponds to Peter and May. It's not only Peter, it's not only May. We have two people. It's the same as they. So we are going to use have and not has. Have Peter and May brought my book yet? Very well. Next one. Lucy blank not visit her grandparents this year. Not visit. There you go. So you see it's a negative now. You have to be careful. Five seconds. And done. Okay. Let's see what you wrote for me. Let's go, guys. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Okay, you have some mixed answers here. Temos algumas visitas, some answers that are mixed, algumas respostas misturadas, né? Vamos lá, vamos ver. So the correct answer is Lucy hasn't visited. Lucy hasn't visited her grandparents this year. Lucy hasn't visited her grandparents this year. Lucy is the same as she, so we have to use has, right? So hasn't in this case because it's negative. Then we have to use visited, which is a regular verb. So you just have to add ed as a normal verb would. And as it's negative, hasn't, okay? Hasn't visited. Next. Let's go. Also a question. It's also a question. Blank, you and your family ever blank to South Africa, and you have the verb be. Again, we used the verb be before. Let's go. Okay, time's up. Let me see your answers. I can see, guys, that you are really getting the differences here. Really good. So the answer, have you and your family ever been to South Africa? Yes? Have you and your family ever been to South Africa? Have in the beginning because it's a question, and then been is going to be like right in the middle of the sentence because you and your family is our subject. All of this is our family. Oh, sorry, our subject. So we have you and your family ever been? You and your family is the same as you in general, right? And we're going to use have to ask this question, okay? Great. Now, summarizing. Let's take a look here because now we have like the two verb tenses synthesized. Simple past. We used to talk about completed actions in the past, and we know when they happened. Yes, we know when these actions happened. The present perfect, we used to talk about incomplete actions. We don't know when they happened, and we can also use them, like use the present perfect to talk about experiences. Okay, again, completed actions in the past, and when we know when they happened, simple past. Present perfect, incomplete actions, we don't know when they happened, or experiences. Okay? Let's see then some more practice. You have 5 sentences here. I would like you guys to take notes in your notebooks, in your books. You can write this. I will give you some time for you to do this activity. and then we are going to check together, okay? Because this one doesn't have the answers, we're going to do it together, right? So I'll give you some time, and then we can start one by one checking the sentences we have, okay? I would like you to write this maybe in your book, maybe in your notebook, so that you can have some practice. It's also a good idea to take notes, because when we take notes, it kind of helps you to memorize what you're doing. So it's also important. Okay, let's go. I'll give you some time. Let's see. So let's start with the first one. Number 1. Jody, home last night. You have to write either, you have to complete either with the simple past or with the present perfect. So we have to analyze the sentence first. So Jody blank home last night. What do you think, guys? Is it simple past or past perfect or present perfect? What do you think, guys? Simple or perfect? Simple past or present perfect? The first one, number 1. I want to see. Leticia says it's simple past. How do I know, Leticia, that's simple past? How do I know? Because of the time marker. Because we have a time marker here. We have last night. Last night is a time marker. It indicates exactly when this action happened. So that's why we know. Let's check number 2, guys. My brother, blank, not come yet. Simple or present perfect? So number 2, guys, simple past or present perfect? It's present perfect. Yes. My brother hasn't come yet. My brother hasn't come yet. We know it's present perfect because of this word here, yet. First of all, we don't have a time marker, so we don't know when it happened, right? And we have the word yet. These 2 words I'm going to write for you right now, guys. Yet. Not 2, more than 2. Yet, never, ever, already, and always. These words that I just wrote for you guys, yet, never, ever, already, and always, they are strictly linked to the present perfect. Okay, remember that. If you find these words or if you need to use these words in a sentence or when you're talking to someone, remember that these words are usually linked to the present perfect. What about the next one, number 3? Carol and her boyfriend, blank, visit the Eiffel Tower. Is it simple past or present perfect? Simple past or present perfect, number 3? According to Isaki, it's present perfect. And he is right. Yes, Leticia also said it's present perfect. You are, guys, you are right. It's present perfect because we don't know when it happened. We don't have a time marker, right? So we don't really know when it happened. So we are going to say Carol and her boyfriend have visited the Eiffel Tower. We know they have in a certain moment, but we don't know when. Okay? It's present perfect, guys. Present perfect. Number 3 is present perfect. Because we don't know when it happened, and it's an activity that happened somewhere in the past or a certain moment in the past, but we don't know exactly when. Okay? Number 4, guys. What do you think about number 4? Is it simple past or present perfect? It's almost the same sentence, but there is a detail there. According to Leticia, is simple past. What do you think, guys? Do you agree with her? So Isaki also thinks that number 4 is simple past, and you guys are right. It is simple past because we have here the word, the expression 2 years ago. So Carol and her boyfriend visited the Eiffel Tower 2 years ago. Yes, we use the simple past because of this time marker there. You have a time marker here, 2 years ago, which it indicates exactly when the activity happened. Okay? And then, beautiful students, our last question for tonight. We have this. We blank a lot today. We blank a lot today. You think it's simple or present perfect? The verb is learn. Let's see. Okay, simple past 2, simple past. Okay, so I will tell you guys, you can either use this sentence in the simple past or the present perfect because it depends on how you see today. If today is almost over and you think like, oh, it's done, so we're not going to learn anymore, we're not going to learn anything more, so we can use the simple past. We learned a lot today. But if we decide that today still has some hours and that we can still learn more, then we can use the present perfect. We have learned a lot today, but we can learn even more. Okay? So guys, thank you very much for coming to this class. I really appreciate your participation. Yes, this is something new that we are doing, a new format. It's good for other people that can come and watch this class and learn a little bit more. And I think it's going to be nice. But we have our next class is going to be through Zoom. So don't worry about it. We're going to talk, and if you have any other questions, we can talk and we can solve your questions. So it's important to take notes if you want to ask me something next week, because then you can ask me through Zoom, okay? And the homework will be sent to you through WhatsApp, so stay tuned. Okay, guys? Thank you very, very much for coming. I hope you enjoyed our class today, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye, guys.